To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Well, folks, it has been a it's been quite the past few hours, past day. By now, I'm sure that you've all heard that Charlie Kirk yesterday was at an event at the University of Utah, I believe it was, holding the first tour of his fall 2025 tour schedule, and was shot mid-speech in front of hundreds of students at the university, possibly thousands. I don't know how many people were there. It looked like thousands to me. So I just wanted to come on and take the time today to talk about my thoughts on all of that and my memory of Charlie and what his character meant to someone like me and the movement as a whole. So I have been following Charlie Kirk since the very beginning. I remember watching videos of him that were beginning to be posted online years and years and years ago when he was going to universities with himself and one or two other people and a card table and just talking to people. And like three or four people would come up and talk to him at that time, right? And as the years progressed on and on and on, slowly more and more and more and more people showed up, spoke to Charlie, and it became this humongous brand that is today. I followed him so long that he inspired me to join my university's Turning Point chapter, in which I became the president of that chapter and have run it for years at this point. I've been running that chapter since 2023, and I can't speak on behalf of the Turning Point organization as a whole, but I can tell you that I have enjoyed my time as a as a campus activist through Turning Point USA so much. I've met so many amazing people. I've gotten to do so many amazing opportunities because of that. We've had so many tabling opportunities. We've had so many times that we have spoken to people on campus and just gotten to have a presence on a college campus that is largely run by people who probably disagree with the values that we have, but it's important that we're there and we're speaking our minds and we're speaking what I believe is the truth and what I believe is objective truth. So the events that happened yesterday were extremely hard for me as well. Not only because I am a student, of course, at any college campus. I'd be scared to be a student at any college campus at this point, considering that there was an assassination that happened yesterday at one. But I'm also a member of a Turning Point chapter, and on top of that, I got the opportunity to volunteer and meet Charlie last spring actually, during the spring 2024 tour schedule. So I have a couple pictures that I pulled up here that I wanted to show. So as I'm talking. So I had the opportunity to go and volunteer at this event. I helped to get people to their seats. I helped to get the event organized, and I helped it run smoothly. Before the event took place, Charlie wasn't in. This was in Kansas. This was in Lawrence, Kansas, which is about an hour outside Kansas City on the Kansas side. So Charlie flew in earlier that day from, I'm assuming, Arizona, and before the actual event took place, before we let the general public into the theater they were in, and by the way, there was about 2,000 people who showed up. There were about 2,000 people who were not able to come into the theater because there literally was not enough room. It was packed. Every seat was filled. He took the time to meet with every single volunteer who was there that night. There was about 50 of us who volunteered to be at that event. Seems like somewhere around there, around that number. And he took the time to meet with every single one of us, take a photo with every single one of us before the event, and he signed my book, which is a great book by him, The College Scam. I say that as a great book as someone who's in college right now. Lots of great points made in that book. But I mean, you can see all these people in orange shirts are all volunteers at that event that night. And it was so great that he took the opportunity to meet with us and to take a picture with every single one. Because all of us are huge fans of his, and we're there to support him and support the brand and support the mission and continue the fight. And he certainly did not have to meet with us and take photos with us. He did not need to sign my book. He did not need to arrive early to do all that. He's a busy guy. I mean, he does his own news show several times a week and is touring the country. But he did. He took the time to do that for us. And setting all things aside politically, I believe that he is a genuinely good man, good father, good husband, his two kids, and that's evident to me in just the way that he was in person, the how gracious he was that we were all there volunteering for him specifically, there to support him specifically, and he was very gracious, very patient with all of us. Um, as a side note, I remember when I was there that night. I'm about 6 foot tall, and standing, I did not expect him to be so tall. I mean, I look short next to someone like Charlie Kirk, and I'm 6 foot, and I think Charlie's about probably 6'3" or 6'4", and that was just a side note of something that I remember thinking about while I was there, standing in front of him. So, setting all things aside politically, that's just kind of my thoughts, and I'll talk more about what President Trump had to say in a moment, but it's very I'm gonna keep that picture up. I like that picture. It's not the best picture of me, but I like it. I like that I have that memory. I'm just gonna leave it there as I'm talking. This is a very casual talk we're having. Nothing. This is a very serious topic, but you know, we're trying to keep it laid back. There's no structure. I don't have any notes. I'm just talking at you like we're having a conversation. I learned so much from Charlie and his time with us. He was one of my three big role models in life when it comes to politics. He's one of the main people that got me engaged politically. I mean, it's largely because of him and his organization that he built that I have made so many connections in the political scene and had the success I've had up until this point. I'm not going to say it was all him entirely, but I want to give him credit for empowering myself and so many other students nationwide for being more involved in our country's political system, getting us out to vote, and just engaging with low propensity voters, especially in 2024. I mean, we saw so many students showing up to his events, and I believe it's one of the many reasons why President Trump won in 2024 was because he turned out those voters. And it was certainly not solely him, but he certainly helped to add a few percentage points in Trump's favor in some of those swing states. And through the work of Turning Point and through the work of his social media team and their great video content and his great debates, he made it cool to have a MAGA hat on again. He made it cool to be a conservative and to show up to events like this and to be proud of your country. And that's one of my biggest takeaways from him and his legacy is just how he built that up and the way that he did it. He didn't do it through gotchaing people who were coming and talking to him. He didn't do it by taking low blows and taking the low road to destroy people's reputations or criticizing their their character or their, the way they dressed. Charlie Kirk had debates with people of every race, every gender, every sexuality, from people from all over the world, um, and he brought those people who disagreed with him to the front of the line so they had their time to speak. If you'll notice, any time you watch one of his videos, he usually has a microphone. When the speaker is up speaking at him about their point, he puts the microphone down on the table. And I think that just shows so much about how patient of a man he was, and frankly, honestly, how good of a soul he was, that he had the patience and the drive to go to campuses all over the country, talk with people who were absolutely trying to rip him to shreds at every opportunity they got, and give them the time of day, and give them the patience, and give them the respect that they deserved. And I think that we can all learn so much about what that means to us as Americans, as people who go out and have debates, as people who are active like I am on social media, and how we correspond with people, and how we respect people online. And I've seen an enormous outpouring of support for him from people of all walks of life, regardless of if you agreed with him or not, which I think is the absolute right response. So many people will point out that, oh, many people from the left, Democrats, for example, especially people in Congress, have given their condolences to Charlie and called for an end to political violence and all of this. And a lot of us on the right have taken anger to that and said, why weren't you doing this years ago? But I think that we need to take the good with the bad and say it's good that they are standing up and saying this was a bad thing that happened and calling for an end to this. And let's hold them accountable to that and see if that continues going forward. Donald Trump spoke, that video I played at the very beginning, about how we've seen so much political violence in the past few months, in the past few years, from the shooting of the American healthcare CEO to the attempted assassination of Steve Scalise. Donald Trump himself shot in the air in Butler, Pennsylvania last year. So much has happened regarding all that. And all those people who perpetrated those crimes should absolutely be brought to justice and should sit in jail for the rest of their lives. Or, they should be brought to justice. And we do need to see an end to political violence, and we do need to come to a consensus with this country and say that calling people like Charlie Kirk, calling people like Donald Trump Nazis or Hitler or these evil, awful people is entirely wrong, right? Calling people fascists is not the way that we move on as a country. It's not the way that we function as a society, right? We have to look at, what Charlie Kirk has done. I mean, like I said, he debated people on campus who disagreed with him, and he never called them names. He never criticized how they looked, right? And when people called him a fascist, he asked them what makes him a fascist, right? He asked them that. And they rarely had a good response to him because it's not true. And I've talked about this before when I've seen other things in the news come up about calling people fascists, or calling people Hitler, or calling people Nazis. Or saying that we're going to have a second Holocaust in the United States today, which is just so factually wrong. And by the way, when you compare people like Charlie Kirk, when you compare people like Donald Trump to Hitler, it degrades the character of Hitler. Hitler was an evil man who killed millions of people in our world, right? No one ever should be compared to that man. And by comparing people today to him, it degrades the atrocities that were committed during World War II And by the way, it glosses over all the lives that were lost in World War II, by the way. American, Japanese, German, English, French, Russian, right? So Canadian, so many countries had lives lost because of the attacks that Hitler did on our world. That's not happening today. It's just factually untrue. Um, and it is speech like that that enables radicals like the individual who went and shot and killed Charlie Kirk yesterday to go and do things like that, right? The connection between a mentally ill person going and committing a crime and hearing that the second running of Hitler is on their campus or nearby them, right? The connection between hearing that and going and shooting them, it's not a big leap to get to that point. So I hope that the media and Democrats as a whole come to their senses and stop saying things like this. I mean, even yesterday on the news, when speaking about what was happening to Charlie Kirk at the time, they were calling him a divisive personality, right? Charlie Kirk, I believe, is one of the actually least divisive people out there in the political space. He went onto campuses and he had facts to present, and he did. And he called anyone forward to try and disagree with him. And it wasn't a matter of ever winning a debate or ever proving someone right, but it was showing that you can have a civil disagreement, and at the end of the day, the viewers will decide who is right and who is wrong. And that is what makes our country so great. That is why debate is so important to us as a people, is we allow people to come on stage, speak their minds freely, say what they have to say, put their points out, and the other side has the opportunity to respond. And that side can prove the opposition right or wrong in the way that they see fit. And we as the viewers, we as the people who witness that happen, we then can decide how we feel on that topic, right? If you're someone who is pro-life or pro-choice, you can listen to Charlie Kirk debate his opinions on abortion, for example, and speak about what he thinks. And his opinions on abortion isn't even the most radical that is out there in the world, right? There's far more divisive opinions on abortion than Charlie Kirk's opinions. But my point is, if you were pro-life or pro-choice, you could listen. And there were several people that I've seen who came and debated him on that, who were, great debaters at talking about pro-life or pro-choice issues. And you could listen to that, and you could hear what Charlie had to say, and you could hear what the pro-choice people had to say, and you could make your opinion based on that. Or you could have your mind change a little bit in either direction, right? You might hear what Charlie Kirk has to say about abortion and decide you are more pro-choice than you are pro-life, right? That needle could be moved for you a little bit, because it wasn't about winning the debate. It was about creating an environment that people felt comfortable to talk in, and going into an environment where people previously didn't feel comfortable talking in. Going to universities there's a reason why he went to universities as opposed to literally anywhere else, because at universities there was case after case after case of professors grading conservative students down in their papers for speaking their mind, or students not feeling comfortable speaking in class because of the way that they felt their classmates would take their opinions, or the way that they would be looked at on their university. And I certainly feel that in a lot of classes that I take. And with people like Charlie Kirk going to those campuses and having open debate on those campuses, is empowered a whole generation of students to go and speak their mind and be proud of who they are as Americans, and be proud to defend their opinions in any setting that is, and realize that we have free speech in our country. We have the right to say our mind and to defend our thoughts, but we also have the right to be challenged on those, and we should be ready for that. And he taught us how to act in an appropriate manner when we are being challenged in those ways, to be patient with the other side, to welcome them in with open arms when they want to have a change of opinion, right? I mean, Charlie Kirk was one of the champions of people like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., bringing them into the conservative movement, into the Trump administration. There was a lot of divisiveness that happened when that was first announced, by the way, as if they were going to be loyal to Trump or not. And Charlie Kirk was one of the voices that helped to moderate that and make it a non-issue and put so many of our minds at rest, knowing that Trump is bringing in these huge Democrats into the White House. And, he showed us that they are going to do a good job, and they have done a great job. Trump was saying that Charlie Kirk empowered a whole generation of conservatives, and he certainly did. I mean, in just the past 5 years, he went from having a few people attending events to now thousands of people attending events. I mean, he enabled the entirety of Gen Z to become this beacon of hope for American freedom, for constitutional rights, for religious liberty, for so many principles that we hold so strong in our country that have been fading over the years. And we forget where we were just a few years ago. We forget where we were in 2022. Donald Trump was facing hundreds of years in federal prison. The conservative cause felt like it was fading out. It was ashes floating away. It was not what it was. We didn't know where we were going to go. And people like Charlie Kirk stepped up and went to campuses and re-empowered the movement. And we rose like a phoenix from the ashes and became stronger than we ever have been. It's extremely empowering. That's the last thing I want to talk about, is where do we go from here, right? Well, I've said this a few times now, but I'll say it again. My thoughts certainly go out to his wife and his kids. I cannot even imagine how terrible they're feeling right now. I mean, I was hysterical yesterday, and I'm sure that wasn't even a 100th of the emotion that they were feeling. If for whatever reason this ever makes it in front of Erica Kirk, what I have to say is I hope that she continues on. I hope she continues speaking at Turning Point events. She was usually one of the keynote speakers at the Turning Point Women's Summits. She's a powerful voice in and of herself, and I hope she continues to stay active. I hope she does not fade into the shadows. I hope she continues the legacy that her husband built and continues on this organization for all it stands for. And I hope that Turning Point USA works to find another individual like Charlie Kirk who can go to campuses and continue to have debate on campuses. It's so important that we continue to have that, and I hope that one way or another we find a way to continue to have those events. What are we going to do as a country? I think that there are two sides that are slowly kind of brewing up, and I believe one of them is truly in the right and one of them is truly in the wrong. One side is very much taking violence to combat violence, right? I've heard so many people suggesting that, this was our Civil War movement. This was our this is our time to take our country back, and not do it in the way that Charlie was doing, but doing it in a way that causes other people to suffer, causes more violence, essentially, either verbally or physically. And that's never the way to solve our disagreements. That is the way that low educated, uncivilized people run their societies. Look at the Middle East. Look at a lot of countries in Africa, frankly. Look at how they're running themselves, right? They are low civilized, low education, no talking individuals. Look at the war that's happening in Israel and with Israel and Hamas right now. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on all that, but what happens when we stop talking, right? Why are we going to war with each other when we should be talking to each other? There's been conflict in the Middle East for decades, and why is that? Why aren't we talking to each other? Why are we just fighting each other and attacking each other and having terror groups bombing our country? Today is the anniversary of September 11th, when radical Islamic terrorists flew planes into our beacons of freedom of our country, right? We're living in a time right now where freedom is still under attack. I always go back to 9/11 when I think, and I think that so many people miss one of the big points with 9/11, which is, why did those terrorists choose to fly an airplane into the World Trade Center? Why did they choose to fly an airplane into the Pentagon? Why did they choose to try and fly an airplane into the White House or the Capitol, right? Why did they choose these locations? Well, I can tell you they chose the World Trade Center because the World Trade Center is a beacon of freedom. It's a beacon of Western values, right? The World Trade Center unites so many companies and countries globally to conduct trade amongst themselves and to act in a civilized manner. It's a beacon of freedom for the West. Same as the Capitol, same as the White House, same as the Pentagon. All beacons of Western values, all beacons of freedom. Charlie Kirk was a beacon of freedom, right? He was a firm advocate of the First Amendment. He was a firm advocate of the Second Amendment. He was a firm advocate in standing up for the Constitution and standing up for the rule of law in our country. And conducting ourselves in a way that is not peaceful, that is not civilized, is the wrong approach. So what is the right approach? I believe the right approach is continuing what we have been doing, right? As I said, our movement is stronger today than it has been at least in the past 10 years, if not of all American history, right? Gen Z men are more conservative today than any other generation in the past 50 years. Why is that? It's because of people like Charlie Kirk, right? Our side is winning, right? We are winning. We are doing good. We are bringing in people from the opposition. We have moved the Overton window of who we include in our group to create this true coalition of Americans, right? It really is the far left versus sane people today in our country. And I think we need to continue to extend the olive branch to left-leaning people in our country. We need to continue to activate low propensity voters like students in our country to get out and vote, right? We still have tens of millions of Americans who do not vote in our elections. We need to continue to go and chase their votes and get them activated and get them in our government and get them involved in local and state politics, right? All of these things are things that Charlie Kirk preached. And we need to continue to be peaceful and civilized with them and continue to be the better person. No matter how many times we get knocked down, no matter how many times it might be scary to do so, we need to continue to be the better person, right? Charlie Kirk he's not only a strong conservative advocate, he was a strong religious advocate. And he used his religion and the Bible to become the man that he is. I mean, he often said that Christianity saved his life, and I truly believe that he felt that way. And people like him have certainly brought me closer to God. And it's in times like these that I think back and I remember to how empowering Charlie's speeches were and how how he talked about religion, how he talked about God, and how he always empowered his supporters and his viewers and Americans as a whole to be better than what they're fighting against. And I, I do not want to see our movement collapse or break apart because one sect of us wants to obliterate the left and do it unpeacefully and do it violently. I want to see our movement unify even more than it has been now and continue along the road that we have been going down and be powerful and be empowering and empower people all across the country. And it's baby steps, right? We're slowly winning. We're seeing changes, right? The transgender debate, I don't think will honestly be a talking point in 5 years, largely because of work that our movement has done. I don't think that a lot of things, men and women's locker rooms, I don't think will be a debate in 5 years because of people being empowered by Charlie, right? I mean, Charlie brought people like Riley Gaines on to tour with him and talk about these matters, and it's brought so many people over to the sane and rational side of the world. And I want to be clear too. You can absolutely be a supporter of more liberal values and be a sane and rational individual, and there are many of them out there, right? And we're happy to see them. And it's shining the spotlight on the media and the individuals in our government who, as I was saying earlier, call people like Charlie Hitler, call them fascists, call them names, try and cite people, right? Joe Biden did this back several years ago. He had a really scary black background with red lighting, and he said a lot of extremely divisive things about Trump supporters. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on about points that have been made, and that's not to say that Republicans never say maybe uncalled for things towards people on the left, and I think that's wrong too. But I hope that we see through our government and we see through our media are extending of the olive branch to those folks. And I believe it's coming. I believe it's been happening. Ben Shapiro was out on tour recently showing off his new book, and he was on channels like CNN, right? Charlie Kirk sat down with someone like Gavin Newsom, who, they completely disagree on essentially everything. It's great to see that, right? And that's how we build those bridges and extend them across, is by having those conversations. And it's important that even after we have them, that those people who have the power to say divisive things and influence people to believe a certain way about someone else, they continue to be civilized, and they continue to say, hey, I might disagree with you on this point, but you know what? You're still a great guy. And it doesn't mean that I suddenly have to be pro-life. Doesn't mean I suddenly have to be this huge Republican supporter. Doesn't mean I have to vote for Republicans. But it means that I will defend your right to speak in public, to speak your mind. Doesn't mean we have to agree, but that's okay. At the end of the day, it's okay. And we've gotten to a point where we take things so seriously and we get so fired up. I mean, even watching the testimony the other day with RFK Jr. in front of the Senate Finance Committee, there were so many, frankly, atrocious things that were said to him from senators. And it's disappointing for me to see that. And I think that behavior should be condemned. And I'm sure if you watch the testimony, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But to kind of end off, we are at a turning point, for lack of a better word, or lack of a better phrase. with political discourse in our country. And we need to fight 10 times harder for free speech and to protect people in the public square like Charlie Kirk, and all the other people who are like him, and hold our media and our elected representatives and, frankly, all the people online who say divisive things, who empower people like the perpetrators of these crimes against people like Trump, against people like Steve Scalise, against people like Charlie Kirk, and hold them accountable and say, no, what you're saying is wrong. You know, you can absolutely disagree, but the way that you're disagreeing is wrong, right? There's a right and a wrong way to disagree. And saying that someone is Hitler, wrong way to disagree. But saying, I don't believe in that, here are the reasons why, correct way to disagree. And I hope that is the direction we go down as a country. And I hope that we are stronger and better because of this event. That is my hope, and that is what I'll be praying on, and that is what I hope all of you will pray on. So thank you so much for watching today. It has not been an easy past few hours, past day or so for me to be here. It's hard to continue talking about all of this and not get extremely emotional because of it, but I hope that we can all heal and grow as a country and come together and have a little bit more bipartisanship in our politics. So share this with people you know, people who were supporters of Charlie, and have a great weekend. I hope that take some time off, get off of social media. It's not going to be good. This is going to be all over the news for at least through the weekend, if not longer. So I highly encourage you, take some time off, reflect. I went and watched a speech from Charlie. I watched his AmFest 2024 speech because I needed that to heal, and that was really helpful to watch. Highly suggest you go and watch some speeches from him. See how he was as just a speaker, not necessarily his Change My Minds, but just when he had the opportunity to speak without other people asking questions. And remember the man for who he was and how great of an individual he was, and do not engage with the crowd that is suggesting that this was at all warranted or that he at all deserved this. Don't reply to their tweets. Don't quote them or anything. Don't do any of that. It just gives them more power. Remember how we can do better. Remember how we can be the better side, how we can be the side of moderation and bipartisanship, not the side of divisiveness and violence. But with that, I've been Nathan Hale. It has been great to speak with you all today. It's been a bit of a long video. I've talked a lot longer than I thought I was going to, but I just felt like rambling, and I appreciate anyone who made it to the end and listened to my whole speech. I'll certainly have more thoughts on this later, and I'll see you all next Tuesday, and hopefully we have some good news to talk about on Tuesday, some better things that are happening then. But that's all I have for you today. I appreciate you all hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one. All my links to social media are in the description down below. Go and follow me there. I appreciate it. And if you have anything you want to talk about, DM me on Twitter. They're open. But I'll be taking some time off social media through the weekend. But yeah, with that, I've been Nathan Hale. This has been a video diary. It's not really spin cycle today, is it? I don't know, a fireside chat, if you want to call it that. And but I will see you. I'll see you in a few days. Peace out.